Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mind to Mind. I'm Tiffani Neilson, and with me is my amazing co host, Dr. Joe Perez, who is with me here in Las Vegas today. How are you, Dr. Joe?
I'm doing great, Tiffany. How about you?
Fantastic. So glad to
Cool.
have you here in the studio in the flesh. So
Yes.
amazing.
Can't believe it.
And Dr. Joe, I'm sure you've been to Las Vegas before, but when was your last trip here and what's changed?
So the last time I was here, I was speaking at a conference, a compliance conference. It was September of 2021. And I don't know, seeing the reddish brown grass, it wasn't really grass, it was more like gravel, was a little bit different. The other different nice substances used to cover one's yard and things. And I don't know, even though I'm in North Carolina and everything's a bit greener over there, I found it rather pleasing. The reddish brown kind of, I don't know, kind of matches everything. So here I am about a year and a half later, and a little bit more of the reddish brown stuff, but still lovely city. I have enjoyed my time here both then and now, even more so because I got to visit and meet you in person, the incomparable Tiffani. I just had an epiphany with Tiffani, right?
Well, that's wild, Dr. Joe. Of all
Yeah,
the things that have changed in Las Vegas, you're noticing the lack of water that is happening out
right.
here with the shortage due to the Lake Mead situation. But we won't dwell on that too much for now, although nature versus nurture is today's theme. And I'm
Yep.
sure that both nature and nurture could use a little help when it comes to the water situation in Las Vegas. But moving on, do you have any exciting news to share with us, Dr. Joe?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do have some exciting news to share for you. A couple of things that I can share real quick. So, other than a successful conference yesterday, again, Building Business Capability Conference. It was at Caesars Forum. Never been there. It's amazing. But that doesn't really count because it was in the past, so that's not really news. But I have been selected to be an ambassador for Gartner Peer Community. Yeah, it's an online community platform that's run by Gartner. Yeah, that Gartner. And anyway, it allows users to access unbiased peer-driven advice and insights to help inform technology and business decisions. I'm just tickled to death with his honor. Ambassador. It's just awesome. So the second piece of news is I've been asked to speak at the CDO IQ symposium at MIT. Never spoken at MIT before. Real excited about it. Pumped. Whatever verb you want to use. It's a tremendous honor, and I'm so profoundly grateful and so looking forward to the trip in July to MIT. Lastly, most importantly, more important than any conference, my younger son got married a few weeks ago.
Nice.
Yay! Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's another happily married couple, just like his parents and like his brother and sister-in-law. And my wife and I, well, we've now officially joined the ranks of happily married empty nesters. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
newly minted empty nesters. Right? Diana, more date nights for us. Woo, yeah. So yeah. Um, so how about you, Tiffany? Do you have any exciting news to share with our audience?
I do. There's lots of exciting news, actually. So, one of them is that we just finished the Green Thing Summit. It went amazing. 20 plus speakers from around the world sharing such important topics, especially as we were just talking about the drought here in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Well, pending drought. I don't know. It's not full drought yet, but it's pending. Regardless, we had some great speakers from around the world talking about sustainability, energy, ESG, global megatrends, so many different topics. It was amazing. And I recently am getting an award. I'm getting recognized
Woo.
from CIO Look magazine as top 10 most influential
Yes.
marketers of 2023.
You absolutely deserve it,
So I'm
Tiffany.
excited about that. And perhaps the biggest news of all is I'm having a baby.
Yes.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
I've kind of been quiet about it,
Oh,
but the baby should
Tiffany.
be here within the next couple of months. So I'm very excited about that, especially since Mother's Day just passed. I couldn't be more excited about bringing a baby into the world. It's going to be a
Well,
boy.
all right.
And so
Oh my,
I am super excited about
congratulations.
that. So that's
Oh
my biggest
my,
news
that's
probably ever in
great.
my life.
Well, Tiffani, I tell you what, you are going to make one phenomenal mommy, let me tell you. I am just so happy for you, so
Thank
proud of you,
you.
wishing you all the best in the world. Um, I don't know if you've picked a name yet. You think the child might influence our topic for today?
It has already. Yes, he has. And the name's going to be Xander James. Xander with an X. So like
That's,
Alexander, but Xander.
that's a pretty
Xander
cool
James.
name.
So it is a pretty cool name. So
Yes, it is.
I'm super excited about this. So with
Awesome.
that, we have the topic of nature versus nurture. And nature refers to traits and characteristics that are inherent or genetic in origin. And nurture refers to qualities that are learned by an organism as it grows. Very suiting a baby, an organism, and it's
Mhm.
it's very commonly applied to human development. And I chose this topic because although this concept could be applied to most any organism, from a tree to a pet, it's more commonly applied to human development, which has always been an interest of mine. And studying emotional intelligence has always been something that I've dabbled in. And along my journey to motherhood, these topics have become even more of interest. So, how do you feel about today's topic, Dr. Joe? And is the nature versus nurture debate something that you've considered in the past, or is this kind of a new way of looking at the
Hmm.
developmental process?
That's that is an amazing question, Tiffany. So, yeah, a couple of ideas here, I guess. Um, you know, uh, the debate here, if you want to call it, go to the nature side or the nurture side, considering the fact that you're going to be a parent and just how important it is to consider both of those concepts, right? Nature on one side, nature on the other. You're getting ready to bring a new life into the world, right? And, it's just as important dealing with those that are already in the world. Um, I'll tell you what I mean by that. This is how I see it. Okay, nature versus nurture. This debate has been a long-standing and fascinating topic of discussion in various fields, whether it's psychology, biology, and philosophy, and many more than that. Um, the debate centers around the question of whether a person's traits, abilities, and behaviors are primarily determined by their genetics, biology, nature, right? Or their environment and experience. That's the nurture part of it. Okay. And while the debate's been going on for centuries, really, I think it remains relevant today. You know, New research shedding light on the complex interplay between nature and nurture in shaping our environment. Many scholars now believe that both of those things, nature and nurture, determine critical roles in determining our behavior. Okay, you think about genetics dividing a baseline. There's also being combined with environmental factors to create absolutely complete, unique individuals. A study published in the journal Nature Genetics found that genetic factors explain approximately 50% of the viability and intelligence, while the remaining 50% is attributable to environmental factors like education and socioeconomic status. 50-50 split, right? So, whether you're a seasoned researcher or a casual learner, the debate over the relative influence of nature and nurture, it's a complex but fascinating topic to explore. And yeah, I kind of think it's likely to continue to capture the interests of both scholars and the public alike for many years to come. And of course, that's why I'm extremely glad that we're talking about it today. Now, how about you, Tiffany? What's your take on this?
Well, I think there's only so much that you can attribute to nature or your natural qualities, but it also, the nurture part of it has such a big impact. I mean, even in preparing for my new child that I'm bringing into the world,
Yeah.
I really put a lot of thought into the environment that I'm creating for him and, the nursery. So, is this child going to have a different life if I choose, you know, comic themed nursery, or NASCAR themed or sports, or I went with safari. I go a jungle, like a jungle theme for
Right.
the nursery. But it is going to play an impact. And I think that, having these animals and this whole jungle theme around him, that's going to shape his whole life. So those kind of things are important. And, that's the nurture side. So no matter what happens on the nature side of whether he has, you know, um, his father is also very smart. So I know that the child's going to have the ability to learn. But I was even watching some of these different shows about different toys and things to buy your child and for the learning development. And they only really work if you work it. So
Right.
no matter what you put in front of a child, no matter how smart he or she can be, you have to be there and nurture to get the child to understand, to play with these learning toys and to get the development skills to really even, you know, be all that they can be. So, yeah, that's my take on that.
That's right. There you go. A
and
great take. Yeah.
and next, let's take a little deeper dive to each of these approaches of development. So, nature is like your natural DNA. It's like your hair color, your eye color. Those who adopt an extremely hereditary position are known as nativists. And their basic assumption is that the characteristics of the human species as a whole are a product only of evolution, and the individual differences are due to each parent's unique genetic code. So the nativists, they think that it's all about how you're born, what you're born with. There's no changing it. That's how that's the cut and dry of it.
Hmm.
And some examples of these extreme nature positions in psychology include Chomsky, who proposed language is gained through the use of innate language acquisition device. Another example is Freud's theory of aggression as being an innate drive called the Thanatos. But Dr. Joe, in your opinion, how much do you feel that nature impacts our life? And is it changing now that we can even modify our genetic makeup?
Ooh, wow, Tiffany. Now that is a thought-provoking question, let me tell you.
Hmm.
Right, yeah. Okay, the debate between nature and nurture, all right, as you sort of implied, has already been going on for a long time. We said that already. And again, it's an essential topic for us to talk about, especially now that we do seem to have the ability to modify our genetic makeup, as you implied as well. So, regarding the impact of nature on our lives, okay, it's clear that our genetic makeup plays a significant role in shaping who we are, right? Our genes determine our physical attributes like eye color, as you mentioned, hair color, some of our personality traits, whether you're going to be an introvert or an extrovert. However, I think it's important to note that genes aren't the only factor that's going to determine what our personality is going to be and what our behavior is going to be. See, our environment, our experiences, these things also, I think, play a crucial role in who we are. Getting back to the nature side of the nature nurture thing. Yeah, yeah. But anyway, the ability to modify our genetic makeup is changing the impact of nature of our lives. Is it? I believe it is. Genetic modification, still a relatively new field in medicine, and it's already shown tremendous promise in treating genetic diseases and improving overall health. So it's not a bad thing. But I really think we should approach this technology with caution and responsibility. Um, and that because it raises questions and concerns, about the potential consequences of altering our genetic makeup, playing God or whatever. So, yeah, while nature does play a significant role in shaping who we are, we know that. We should also, as well as the impact of our environment and experience on our lives. And, the ability to modify our genetic makeup is indeed a powerful tool. But you know what, Tiffany? Just like any other powerful tool, it's one that I very strongly assert must be used wisely and responsibly. Nothing wrong with the tool, just use it responsibly. But you know what? I think I should flip it on the side here. What's your take, Tiffany, on nurture?
On nature or nurture?
Nature or nurture, whichever.
Okay. Well, yeah. Go ahead. We're gonna talk about nurture next,
Okay.
so that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
But I do like what you said when it comes to nature about the whole playing God,
Hmm.
because the more that we modify our genetic makeup, I mean, are we really the ones that should be playing God, or just leave
Mm.
that in God's hands? And,
Right.
I think if we focused more on the nurture, it'd probably be a better approach, honestly.
Agree.
I mean, I've even seen where they have these giant baby farms that they're planning to deploy in the near future, where you can grow your baby in a
Ooh.
mechanical egg, and then keep an eye on it, choose the genes that you want it to have, and do all the gene modification in this artificial womb. But I, I think that has a whole different take on the nurture that even happens when the baby's in the womb. So, I mean, taking
Hmm.
a more natural approach to this, the whole theory of genes, I think I would sway that way for sure. But I
Hmm.
mean, I'm sure that there's a reason why they're experimenting the way that they are. But for me, I'll keep it natural. So
Yeah.
back to nurture. Okay. So looking at nurture is based on actions, and it's how something or someone is nourished, how it's supported, and how much we're nurtured impacts our hobbies, our social abilities, our morals, and our behaviors. And at the end of the day, at the end of the spectrum are the environmentalists, also known
Hmm.
as empiricists, and not to be confused with other empirical or scientific approaches. But the basic assumption is that at birth, the human mind is a tabula rasa, a blank slate,
Mm.
and everything is gradually filled in as a result of experience and behaviorism. And from this point of view, psychological characteristics and behavioral differences that emerge through infancy and childhood are the result of what is learned and
Mm.
learning. And it's how you're brought up, it's the nurture that governs the psychology, significant aspects of child development, and the consumption of maturation, which applies to the biological. For example, there was Bandura's social learning theory that states that aggression is learned from the environment, that the observation and limitation. And then there's also the Bobo doll experiment in
Mm.
Bandura, and that was in 1961. Freud also leaned on that on the environmentalist side, so he had two kind of theories going on. This one stated that events that happen in our childhood could have a great influence on our adult lives. It's kind of like the whole id and the
Right.
ego and everything. And so behavioral genetics have enabled psychology to quantify the relative contribution of nature and nurture with regard to specific psychological traits.
Mm.
And so the one study that I really like is with twins, because it's easy to look at twins because they have the same genes, and then put them in different environments separated and see how they behave in these different environments, because that's like a true beta test where you have the exact same identical genes. But I mean, all testing aside, I think that they both play a pivotal role. It just depends on what you're looking to nail down
Yeah.
into and figure out what you want to analyze. But how much do you feel that the nurture part impacts our
Mm.
lives, Dr. Joe?
Let me think. Okay. That is a great question. I love what you said. And I do agree wholeheartedly with the points that you made. But well, not but from my perspective as a Christian. Okay, our viewers know that I am a Christian, and so I'm going to speak from that perspective. Anyway, as such, I believe that God created us with unique abilities, talents, personalities. In Psalm 139, Scripture says, "You created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well." I love that scripture. Wonderful quote. Love it to death. So we we have a profound, complex, and beautiful nature as humans. And with that being said, while nature, as we talked about earlier, plays a significant role in shaping who we are, nurture is equally important. Our environment, our experiences, our upbringing, all that has a profound impact on our development, as we've talked about, and who we become as individuals, like what you said about the twins. you know Example: children who grow up in a nurturing and supportive environment, they tend to be more confident and emotionally stable than those who grew up in, say, oh, I don't know, harsh and neglectful surroundings. But in a similar way, children who receive a good education are more likely to achieve success later in life than those who don't. See, being raised by supportive parents with firm but compassionate discipline and unconditional love. We can't forget that part. Unconditional love, right? Especially when those children see just how highly they are valued and treasured by their parents. They're going to tend to see themselves with greater self-worth. As my wife and I were raising our kids, considering the difficulty of maintaining that nearly impossible balancing act that I just talked about, right? You got the compassionate discipline on the one hand and unconditional love on the other, and somehow blending the two of them together in the right way, um, we have to constantly remind ourselves that the only way that we can be successful was by the amazing grace of God. And that, we were his instruments in molding a masterpiece. Hey, that's how you've got to see your children, as a masterpiece that you have been entrusted with molding. Okay, that's nurture. Now, what's more, our interactions with other people, like family, friends, colleagues, and others, those interactions also shape our behaviors and personalities. Okay, see, we learn from their attitudes, their beliefs, their actions, right? And then we adapt and incorporate those into our own lives. Remember the golden rule, right? You want to treat others the way you want others to treat you, right? So, with that said, the people that we surround ourselves with can have a tremendous impact on our personal growth and development. So, the way I see it, while genetics might set the stage for who we are, that is the nature side of the thing, right? It's our environment and experiences that shape our personalities, beliefs, and behaviors. The nurturing environment that we provide for ourselves and others, again, that has a profound effect on our own lives and other people around us. So with that said, it's essential to surround ourselves with positive influences and nurture those relationships, because somehow, by the grace of God, they can ultimately determine our success and our happiness. So, how about you, Tiffani? How do you feel about the impact of nature and nurture?
Well, we've talked about nature and we've talked now about nurture. But when you look at, let's say, the genetics that came from my parents into
Hmm.
this new child that I'm bringing into the world. Well, my parents, I think I turned out pretty all right.
I think you
I'm
did
pretty
too.
pleased with the genes that I got,
Right.
and that plays a big role. And I know that that foundation genetically is already going to be there
Hmm.
in my child. But my parents live in Ohio, and how am I going to let them play a pivotal role in the baby's life when they live across the country? And so I've been really like kind of brainstorming between, well, the weather's a lot colder in Ohio, but they do have water, yeah, trying to decide if I'm going to make the move back. But also, what other ways could I have them be more involved in the baby's life, even though they live on the other side of the country? So I was thinking, I'm big on notes and lists and charts. So I was like, I can make like an organizational chart, like, okay, with photos, like this is grandma, this is grandpa, with their
Yeah,
photo,
there you
their
go.
names, just so that the baby becomes familiar with them. Because I talk to my mom every night. I call her, and
Oh,
so I know that the baby's already getting familiar with her voice as Grammy. She wants to be called Grammy, but
okay.
without her being physically present, that puts up a significant challenge. So, and that's where it comes down to this whole nurture idea. And I know how much the nurturing they gave me was important to my upbringing. So how can I have them be present and give that my baby that same nurturing when they're not here? So that's an interesting
Yes, it
perspective. And maybe we'll
is.
circle back to that here later on in the broadcast. But next, the combination of nurture and nature and nurture impacts has had a significant impact on our lives, from how we live to who we are. And this can also impact athleticism, taste in foods, intelligence, sense of humor, cheerfulness, shyness, grumpiness, reading level, sexual attractiveness, heart disease, and a tendency towards alcoholism. So all this is impacted by both nature and nurture. And epigenetics is the term that is used to describe inheritance by mechanisms other than through the DNA sequence of genes. For example, features of a person's physical and social environment can affect which genes are switched on or expressed rather than DNA sequence of the genes themselves. I mean, even my name that I was given at birth has had a significant effect. My dad wanted to name me something ridiculous.
What do you want to name you?
It's so bad, Dr. Joe.
Oh,
Are
you
you
want to
sure
say
you
it?
want to hear?
Oh, why
He
not?
wanted to name me Dweezil after Dweezil Zappa.
Dweezil.
Okay, so I know that the genes can do so much, but if my name was Dweezil, like my upbringing would have been so different. I don't think I ever would have had the goal to move to Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay, like seriously, I probably would have locked myself in a closet like my
Probably.
entire life and been like, oh my God, my name is Dweezil. Let me hide under a desk. Like, seriously, Dad, what were you thinking? I'm so glad that somebody stopped you.
Well, I know
But-
what happened. He had an epiphany and named you Tiffany.
Thank
Oh,
God
that was
somebody
rotten.
with a better idea of nurturing came along and said,
Right.
why don't you name her Tiffany instead?
Don't name her that.
Thank
Right.
God. Thank you, everyone,
Amen
for
to that.
making it Tiffany instead. But
Right.
stressors and memories can also be passed through small RNA molecules to multiple generations of offspring in ways that meaningfully affect their behavior. So that means that if I was named Weasel, that may have had a negative impact on my baby as well, which really got me thinking about what to name the baby, because that's going to have a big impact on
That's
the
right.
baby.
You might
So
call him Weasel
I mean,
to rhyme,
you know,
right?
genetics on the side, you know, if my name really would have been Dweezil, how different would my upbringing and my environment and my social abilities, and I mean, it would have changed. It would have been a game
I'm
changer.
sure.
It would have changed everything. So glad you decided to name me Tiffany instead. Thanks, Mom and Dad. But can you share your thoughts on nature versus nurture and how that might impact our personality, Dr. Joe?
Absolutely, Tiffany. I love it. Oh, you're funny. Okay. Wow. Well, again, this is another fascinating question, fascinating topic. So, as we've been discussing this today, both genetics and our environment can have a significant impact on who we are and how we behave. I can't, we've established that over and over, right? Okay. So, with the advent of epigenetics, I love that word. Oh my gosh.
I know. I was really researching
Epigenetics.
on that.
Yeah. Epigenetics. I don't know. Has a neat sound to it. But anyway, with this epigenetics, okay, we we're just starting to understand that the impact to our, of the environment on our genes goes far beyond what we had thought before. Epigenetic changes can come, can change the way our genes are expressed, and ultimately influencing both our behavior and our personality. For example, research has shown that early childhood experiences such as abuse or neglect can lead to epigenetic changes that impact a person's risk for developing anxiety or depression or other issues. Similarly, exposure to certain chemicals or toxins in our environment can lead to epigenetic changes that might increase our risk for certain diseases or other, conditions. Now, here's something else. Our personality traits can also be influenced by epigenetics. Recent studies have shown that certain personality traits, such as, say, openness, conscientiousness, whether or not you're extroverted, those things have a component that's linked to epigenetic changes. Okay, you alluded to this a couple of minutes ago with the Dweezil thing too, right? Okay, epigenetic changes can have a significant impact on our personality. They're not necessarily deterministic. Okay, it won't be 100%, right? You see, again, our environment and experiences can shape our personality in positive ways as well. Okay, like greater resilience, empathy, and personal growth. Matter of fact, there are a couple of biblical examples that I can think of that I think very aptly illustrate this principle. And I'm talking about the way environment shapes behavior and personality. Two of them really stand up in my mind. Okay, first, there's the story of the prodigal son. Okay, that's found in Luke's Gospel, chapter 15. And it shows how this young man's environment and experiences led him to make some really poor choices. And those choices ultimately led him away from his family and away from God. I mean, there was a happy ending, but the point is, it drove him away. Joseph, right? The story in the Old Testament about Joseph, one of Jacob's 12 sons, Abraham's great grandson. Okay, and that's found in like the last dozen or so chapters in the book of Genesis, long time ago. Anyway, he grew up as his dad's favorite. He was spoiled to a certain degree, had everything he wanted, some certain wealth, but he was resented by his brothers, sold into slavery, and he was broken by all the hardships that he faced in captivity, and but understanding this, these difficult experiences shaped him into a wise and compassionate leader in the end. So, when we talk about the interplay between nature and nurture, including this emerging field of epigenetics, it's so complex and fascinating at the same time. While genetics is going to set the stage for our personality, our environment and experience can shape it in profound ways. And by understanding these influences that we've been talking about, I think we can better understand ourselves and others. And I do believe, Tiffani, that this is going to lead to greater empathy and personal growth. You know what? I think psychology plays an important role here too, don't you, Tiffani?
Absolutely. I think that the psychology that there's probably psychology even in our DNA, in our
Hmm.
genes that's passed down. Where if you have a family that worries a lot, I mean,
Right.
even if it's just the anxiety, I mean, there's got to be a part of that that's passed down through your DNA. Or courage. Maybe, you've got a legacy of heroes running in your blood. Maybe that's there and you just don't even realize it until something is turned on, if you will.
Yeah.
you know and so behavioral genetics has enabled psychology to quantify the relative contribution of nature and nurture concerning specific psychological traits. And when it comes to approaches to psychology, the different methods can be broken down by nature versus nurture as well. And so on one side, that can best be improved through biological approaches and psychoanalysis. So that's going to be the side that's the nature side. So,
Mhm.
if you are going to take a medicine to make you better, or if you're going to have some gene splicing, if you feel that that's the best approach to whatever problem it is. And then on the other side, the nurture side, improvements can be made through behaviorism, through humanism. So maybe you go to some classes and work on whatever is bothering you. Like, let's say you're not happy. Well, if you're going to go with the nature side, you're going to pop a pill that's like antidepressant. But if you go with the nurture approach, then you're probably going to take some classes to work on your anxiety and whatever's bothering you, and
Right.
to improve through behavior. So very interesting how psychology plays a role with this nature versus nurture debate. And in the middle is the cognitive psychology, which consists of innate mental schemas, perception, and it changes constantly based on the environments that surround us. And it kind of goes back to the id, like what's back in the back of our head that's like
Hmm.
back there programming us. And then there's the super ego and the ego, and then your consciousness. So, I mean, so many different things I could talk about with this, and it would probably take another hour to go through and dissect all of it. But do you feel that considering this type of view could help in determining and improving the lives of those with mental conditions,
Hmm.
Dr. Joe?
Well, I I believe it can definitely help, Tiffany. Yeah. Here's my take. Okay, as behavioral genetics continues to shed light on this nature versus nurture debate that we've been talking about here. And again, I'm talking from my perspective as a Christian. Okay, genetics are definitely going to play a significant role in shaping the psychological traits as well. But God's sovereignty, the power of redemption through Christ, are essential to understanding the complexities of the human mind, which, of course, God created. Scripture teaches that all people are created in God's image and they have inherent worth and dignity, regardless of their genetics or experiences. And this view, at least the part of people having inherent worth and dignity, is just about universally accepted among believers and non-believers as well. Whether a person believes in God or not has nothing to do with whether or not they feel that a person has inherent worth and dignity. Now, additionally, a study published in the Journal of American Medical Association called Psychiatry. Okay, this study found that while genetics accounts for up to 80% of the variance in risk for developing something like schizophrenia, all right, other factors like childhood trauma and abuse, okay, those also play a significant role. And again, from my Christian perspective here, this highlights the importance of both understanding and addressing both the biological and the environmental issues that contribute to mental health issues. Okay, by combining scientific research with, say, a faith-based approach, people who are struggling with mental conditions can get holistic and personalized care that addresses the physical, the emotional, the mental, and even the spiritual needs of the individual. And ultimately, by recognizing the interplay between the nature and nurture, like we've been talking about, and shaping mental health, I do believe that we as society can strive to create a compassionate and supportive community that's going to support healing, restoration, and wholeness for all. Now, how do you see it, Tiffani?
I love that, Dr. Joe. And the key word there, healing.
Yes.
Healing. Because I think that so often when it comes to psychology, and especially with mental conditions, they're like, oh, here, give them this. And it's some pill that maybe or maybe not has been tested on people that have similar problems that are specific to that person. And a lot of times, and this is my opinion, I don't feel that a mental disorder that is like let's say depression as an example. I personally do not feel that an antidepressant is enough to solve a person's depression.
Can't just pop a pill and it just goes away.
I don't feel that is, I don't feel it's possible.
Yeah.
I think that it takes behavioral changes in order to not be depressed anymore. Bottom line. I mean, and you could tell me that blue in the face, like, nope, you just need to take this pill. Nope. It takes now maybe a pill and some behavioral help, some coaching, some kind of class, or just seeing someone and talking about what's bothering you, or going through different exercises to figure out what kind of trauma that's deep down that you've been, burying to, cause this depression that people deal with. And there's a lot of depressed people out there. People that watch the news, I'm sure you're depressed. I watch it too. It's hard not to get depressed.
Right.
But it's about choosing not to be depressed. And popping a pill is not making that choice. It's just choosing to pop a pill. So, I mean, I think that in that regard, that it's a gray area, but I think that it takes it, and I'm sure that the antidepressants help to a degree, but I think it takes more than that. I think it takes some actual action, some thought, some changes in the mind and the way that you think. Mind to mind,
right.
You got to change the way you think in order to actually fix the problem.
Don't just depend on, that's right. Don't just depend on the pill.
Yeah, it takes more.
I agree.
Nature versus nurture is one of the oldest questions in science. And the answer is not an either or, but rather it is a nature and nurture acting in various degrees. And I found this really interesting chart. I told you I'm big into charts that shows like the genes, and then it shows the individual choices on one side. And then it shows the environment is like this third ring. And so I think that that's a really interesting approach, because understanding the interplay of biology and experience on learning and development will surely require understanding the biological processes that cause changes in individual neurons and synapses. But this is only one part of the puzzle, because we must understand the control of learning processes as a system-wide level in the brain, and how the brain orchestrates the right set of neural synaptic updates based on experiences that we've encountered throughout our lifetime. And the nature versus nurture concept relates three spheres from the genes, the environment, and the individual choices, but these support the theory of free will. So when you look at the nature versus nurture, then it equals free will. So it equals what you do with it. And that's the free will is the component. It's the component is our power to make choices.
Mm-hmm.
So how large of a role do you feel the free will plays in forming who we are, Dr. Joe? And do you feel it plays a stronger role as we get older?
Older, yeah. Well, Tiffany, I believe it does. I believe it does. Yet another great question. This lady's smart, let me tell you. you know, um, it's one that's been debated for centuries. I love what you said about the three spheres. I'm a stickler for data visualizations too, right? Um, I don't know. I think one of the best types of visualizations to illustrate how different data elements intersect is indeed the Venn diagram, which is the way you depicted the concept, talked about it with the three overlapping circles or spheres. Nicely done. I wish we could have like a screen share or something, you can share because
Well, if this was a whiteboard, I could just draw it for
yeah, that's
everybody
right.
here.
Yeah,
That'd
there
be
you go.
good.
Do it on your brick wall here. Yeah, indeed. So
You've got the environment, you've got the
that's
individual
right.
choices, and then you've got the
Right.
there was another one.
Yeah, I mean, and the way they intersect and the way they interplay is
intersect.
important, right? That's the Venn diagram for you. So maybe we'll figure out a way to share our screen at some point. But okay, here's the point. While genetics and environment certainly play a significant role in shaping who we are, we've already established that. We've been talking about it all day. The concept of free will suggests that we also have agency in our lives. In fact, a study published in the journal called Neuron, I think, found that the brain activity associated with making the decision actually precedes the conscious awareness of that decision. And this suggests that we kind of have an unconscious urge to act that we can choose to either act upon or override. Okay, now regarding your the second part of your question, as we get older, I love that word, older. I do have a bit of a perspective, so much more than you, I think. But no, serious. As we get older, um, our experiences and our environment continue to shape us. We have more opportunities to actually exercise that free will that you're talking about and make choices to shape our lives. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because we've been doing it for all those many more years, so you'd think we'd get good at it. Yeah. So you see, I think this is why personal responsibility and accountability are such important values in many cultures and belief systems. Because see, they reflect the idea that we have the power to shape our own destinies to a certain extent. See, the idea is that we should do so in a responsible manner. Ultimately, the interplay between nature and nurture, again, our amazing topics today, folks, right? And the role of free will. Again, it's a complex and nuanced concept that requires ongoing study. And by continuing to explore the mysteries of the human mind, right, and the forces that shape our lives, I do believe that we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and of the world around us. Well, and that's why we keep doing what we're doing on our show, Mind to Mind, right, Tiffany?
Absolutely. And I love expanding my mind. I love talking and exploring these different topics. And I asked you the part about, as we get older, because when
Because I'm older?
no,
No, I'm kidding.
no. Because when when we're a baby or we have a baby, like the baby that I'm bringing into the world, like that baby, it only has the genes and whatever nurturing I provide for the baby because it doesn't have anything else to base its free will upon. But as you get older and you start making your own decisions, and when I love looking at the whole free will from a perspective of we exercise free will every time we make a choice.
Right.
And so when we decide what we're going to wear that day, and we're not just told, hey, wear this, we're making a choice. That's free will. When we choose, hey, I'm going to have a hamburger. Maybe, you know what? Hamburger might not be a good idea. Maybe those are bad for the environment. Maybe I'm going to have a veggie burger instead. That's free will. You can do what you want because it's free will. And so the more that we exercise free will and we put free will into practice in our lives, the more that we can create our, maybe that affects the epigenetics for the future
There
generation
you go.
because we're forming it for ourselves. But it takes that initial nature versus nurture to get to the point where you're even able to take free will and you take your first step, when you say your first words, when you decide what you want to do for the rest of your life, when you decide what sport you want to play, when you decide what hobby you're going to take up.
Hmm.
And it's not just about the genes. It's not just about what you're being nurtured and fed and surrounded by. It's a combination of both. And then it's fueled by that free will. So I do feel that
Indeed.
it gets stronger as you get older. So thank you so much for joining me today, Dr. Joe. It's been so exciting having you in the
Great.
studio in person. I know we got really in depth and I kind of went on a few tangents there, but
That's
I
all
think
right.
it was great. And I'm so glad that you were here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And to all your moms out there, happy Mother's Day. I know it's past by the time you're seeing this, but happy Mother's Day to you and to me.
And to you. That's right, Tiffany. Congratulations once again on the new life that you're
Yeah.
nurturing
Yeah.
within yourself, and I wish you all the best as you nurture this sweet little one into the world with all the love in your heart. I think you're going to be a great mommy once again. A great co-host and a great mommy.
Thank you, Dr. Joe.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And we're wishing you all the best. So see you next time
Yep.
on Mind to Mind. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.